You're listening to The People's Pitch, the official podcast of Minneapolis City Soccer Club, brought to you by Football Stadium Prince. Let's start the show.
And as I talked about just a couple minutes ago, as Joe Watt stands over this one, he appears to be the one taking the penalty here. This is a huge confidence booster if you're Duluth.
Worst case scenario for City right here.
And it stopped!
Yes!
And it stopped!
Totally redeems himself.
Matt Elder redeeming himself. Oliver with the right foot. The shot is goal!
Oliver!
Justin Oliver will break the scoreless tie. And it is 1-0 Minneapolis City. It's Hutton now on the offense with the left foot. It is now 2-0 Minneapolis City.
Good finish.
Nick Hutton taking his quick victory lap.
Greetings from the frozen north, home of the most dangerous PR stunt U.S. soccer has ever done. This is The People's Pitch, the official podcast of your Minneapolis City SC. As always, I am your host, Nate, joined by the hand warmer to my soccer soul, Johnny Business. John, have your cockles thawed out after last night's big game?
The cockle seems to always be warm, so that's good. It's the other things, like I like the bottom of my feet standing for 2 hours on what was like a wet, slushy mess of rock salt and former ice. Like I just wasn't prepared for that piece. But no, I'm good, man. Like I had all sorts of battery powered heating mechanisms on my person, so I was good to go.
Well, man, this show feels good. It's been a while, I think, since we've basically dedicated an entire show to an Old Grand Dad Rant. If you've been with us from the beginning, we used to have these rants every once in a while. I think we've had one other show where we just bitched the whole time, and I think that's what we're going to do tonight. We've teased it out, but John, we need to have a talk about our cousins across the river. But first, housekeeping. E-Cup knockouts are going to start soon, and I'm going to tell you what, it's rematch time. I'm excited for that. Member meeting is coming up next week, so we're going to talk about what you can expect if you attend, and then, and only then, we're going to get serious about the effects of Loonesta.
Well, before we get started, Nate, there was that soccer game last night here in Minnesota that you mentioned. I did go. I assume you watched.
Oh yeah, right? I watched it. Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, there's a few thoughts on it that I have, and I'll try to keep them brief. But I wanted to mention a few points. Number one for me was, I didn't rewatch the game, even though I was like sitting in a spot where I probably saw myself on TV, but I didn't rewatch the game. Did you see Matt Turner trying to keep himself warm by like putting his hands down his pants and then sprinting from end line to end line when the ball was on the other end?
Yeah, they didn't. You'd be surprised to know they didn't show it because I bet that was a bad look. But they did. But Stu did talk about it. He said he narrated what was happening because they took his Brett Favre hand warmer away within like 30 seconds to kickoff, right?
Yeah, he couldn't wear like the muff, I guess they call it.
Yeah,
hand warmer.
And then I did see the shot of him being wrapped in what can only be described as like a rescue blanket from like a North Pole helicopter.
Yeah, like he just finished the New York or the Boston Marathon.
Yeah, or like they found him because he got lost on the Iditarod and his sled. He had to like sleep with his sled dogs. Like these guys looked cold as hell.
So the thing about that was like whenever an injured player went down, he sprinted to the bench and he like immediately drank something, which I can only think was like hot water or like chicken soup in a thermos,
bone broth or something. Yeah,
to like keep himself warm. And then they like wrapped him with like a blanket. It was probably maybe a heated blanket. I don't know what it was, but it was interesting. But him running back and forth to stay warm was the high. Like every time the ball was on the other end and nothing was really happening, I constantly found myself watching him with his 10 feet long legs and like wearing all purple, and he had no arms to like run normally because he had his hands tucked in his pants. If you can find the clip online, it's absolutely hilarious. So that was number one for me. I thought that was hilarious. Number two was the logistics. So I know some people that went to the game that didn't get in until almost the 30-minute mark because of trying to get in. That to me is like poor planning. And I know you can't plan for what last night was to like the 10th degree, but like going through that process, like I got my vaccination stuff checked. I got my ID checked. I went through metal detector, and like I said, I was wearing battery operated clothes. And like I went off, and I was like, dude, I'm full of batteries. And I was like, and honestly, I have so many pockets, I don't even know where my car keys are. They're in here somewhere. Like I just don't know where they are. And the guy's like, he like wanded me down. He's like, yep. And he like every time it went off, he's like, what's that? And I was like, battery. What's that? Probably keys. And so he's like, yeah, you're good. So we get through that piece. And then here's where the logjam started for me, was that the ticket taking apparatus, because it was all digital, was freezing on the poor lady at the gate, at the door. Oh, so no. like trying to scan. Yeah. Like trying to scan your phone was not working because it was free. It was fucking freezing. And like, it's just like having you're enjoying poolside and your phone's in the sun and you get that notification. It's like, hey, your phone's too hot. Like put it in the shade. This was the exact opposite. It was like, your phone's too cold. It will freeze and turn into a brick. So like the poor girl, like, and I mean, I'm sure it happened at every gate where it was like taking forever to get your tickets to scan. So that was a negative for me. The other thing that was
that's a negative.
That's a negative. The other thing that was big for me is how would you say, if I'm just asking you for the first time, how does someone at like a concession vendor enter information in about like what you've ordered and how much it costs? Like what's the process there?
It's the POS screen, right? It's the so those things froze.
No, they didn't freeze. The people using them fucking froze, man. They had to use their fingers to touch the screens.
Oh, geez.
So, like, I went up to get a beer when one of the third Honduran went down and realized the ground was 55 degrees and was like, this is warm. I'm staying down. But like, I went up to get a beer and the lady, I looked at her and she was like shivering, but she had like everything on and she had her hands like under her armpits, and then I looked, and when she started to try to type my order in, I was like, oh my gosh, you can't wear like gloves. It won't recognize gloves that have like the hotspot touch points on your fingers. Like you have to touch it with your fingers. And then she had to like open the can of beer and pour it in a cup because that's the rule. Whoa. And I was like, oh my God, you poor person. Like how was this not thought of? Like there had to have been a test run, right? So I thought that was a real big negative, because I tipped her, like I'm like, dude, here's $10. Like, just go buy yourself new fingers. I don't know what else I can say. Like Jesus. So I gave her like $10 on, like on a 2-beer purchase. And I was just like, I'm so sorry you have to go through this. She's like, yeah, we didn't even think of this. And I'm like, yeah, clearly you didn't, because you're not going to have workable appendages tomorrow. So outside of that, positives were, to me, like, even though like the whole event was riddled with negatives, right? And I know I said I was going to be brief, but it's kind of hard to be brief on these. The whole event was riddled with negatives, with it, the fact that it's like, from a human health perspective, like some of the players ended up having hypothermia, and like these poor Hondurans, like, can you imagine like it being almost a 90-degree difference from when you took off on a plane to landing, and then you're like, hey, go perform in an athletic environment. That's so awful, like to have that be a situation. And then just like the stance of the Federation being like, well, when we go to Mexico City, there's smog and it's, the heat index is high. It's like, yeah, I get that, but there also are hydration breaks. Like, what are you gonna do?
You're not gonna die if you stand outside.
Right. Exactly. So, but I thought that the one positive for me was that, like, even though there were all the negative circumstances, like the state of Minnesota just showed how loyal we are to a sport. And
insane, but loyal.
Insanely loyal. Yes. Mm-hmm. Like you saw it in the Winter Classic, which was like a big event. You saw it here. I wish it was under different circumstances, but it was kind of fun. Like it was kind of it was very much like a tribe mentality when you got to your seats and everyone's like, some people were sitting and you're like, hey, I'm sorry if I'm obstructing your view, but like we're all standing today, so let's get on board. Like and like I just thought like that piece of it was really cool to see, and everyone kind of embraced it in the stands, but like we were not the ones running around in like nothing more than a jersey and like a layer of Under Armour. So and like the last thing is the weird, I was sitting about like 9 rows up from the field, and the weird sound that came off the ball when the players kicked it, I'd never heard it before. Like I've played in cold weather, but nothing obviously like this. Like it just was this weird, like, how like when you're a little kid and like you're hanging out with a sibling or you're playing with a sibling or friend or a relative, and like someone punches someone square in the back, and there's that like that body cavity,
that like thud. Yeah,
yeah, that was what it sounded when the players kicked the ball.
Wow,
it's the only way I can describe it. It was just really weird, and like I also thought, like, I feel bad for players who like they get kicked a lot.
Dude, I can't believe any contact in that weather, and I would have just been like down. Like that's it. I'm not playing anymore. Like Pepe got smacked in the nose and he's bleeding everywhere. And
because his nose was frozen. It's like breaking off an icicle.
Like, thank you. Like the keeper that took a ball to the face.
Well, he ended up
in the
dying
second
of
half.
hypothermia.
No, the guy in the second, the one that replaced him in the second half took that cross from Weah in the face, and he just was on the ground for a little bit, probably because it was the grass was warm, but also like, holy shit, that's got a sting.
And then, so last piece on this is, the last piece, I promise. So is this whole thing worth it? Like, do we feel like that Honduran team, because they were already down, I think 4 of their top players or 3 of the 4 of their best players. Do you think we would have lost them if we would have played in like Miami or Nashville or
no? But you don't want to. I mean, here's the thing, John, is like, I get that they probably wanted to avoid any sort of, disaster of 4 years ago in Trinidad, like this that happened in Trinidad or something, and make sure that if that we can close this thing out and qualify for the World Cup. But like, even if they were planning on 25 degree weather or something like that, if the team's bad, it's bad. If we were going to lose, we were going to lose.
And it's the worst team in the Federation statistically this season. Like, it wasn't like we were playing Mexico, right?
I know. Anyway, I think what kills me the most about it all, John, is like on TV watching, I know it's cold because I was just outside before the game started taking the garbage out and like letting the dog go to the bathroom and things. And so it's like, I know that standing outside for 5 minutes fucking sucks in that weather. But like on TV, it was almost like they were prohibited from talking about how brutally dangerously cold it was.
Except for the Spanish speaking telecast that poured water on a t-shirt and it froze in front of them. And it was like a piece of concrete.
They were saying stuff like chilly and brisk and looks a little, and it's just like on TV, you can't tell how cold it is for the players really until you see Matt Turner. Mm-hmm. You can't really feel it. Right. So that part of it is like, and then of course you got the fans around here, like, making the best of it, right? It doesn't look that cold, and the whole thing just plays into this narrative that like the game probably should have been played. I agree with you. Like, why not have just done it in Miami? If you wanted to schedule something at Allianz, schedule the next round at Allianz. Who cares? Ridiculous. Yeah. But I mean, the team looked good, all things considered. I think Weston McKennie,
Luca Del Torre played
really
fantastic.
Exciting. Luca Del Torre, I'd never seen him before. That was amazing. Zimmerman's looking better every game. I'm just like, it feels like it felt like, God, when we worked together all those years ago, back in 2018, when we were watching the World Cup. And was that when it was? What year was it? 2014? I don't remember. Anyway, back when we worked together, we were watching the World Cup. I don't know. We've known each other for a long time.
I think it was 14.
24. That's what it was. 2014. And like, we were excited for that young crop of Americans that were going to show up, the Michael Bradleys of the world and stuff. And like, it felt like we could do some damage. So hopefully if we can wrap this qualification up, we can do some damage. I'm also real excited for Canada. Like, what a surprise.
Yeah. Good for them. Good for them. America's hat finally figured out how to play soccer. But yeah, I think we put a pin in this and we talk a little bit more about this on another show once we get closer to qualifying, like actual qualifying or not qualifying.
Agreed.
So back to actual topics. Sorry for that little side project we just dove into. Nate, since we last talked, things have not gone as well in the E-Cup as we had hoped, have they? When we first started this journey, it was very much so a case of I'm just happy to be here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then the wheels touched down, and I think you started to realize like I can do this. Like it's not as like bad as I thought it was going to be. But that was quickly followed by a series of God damn it moments. But through the whole cloud of dust that emerged out of that, you did what, we're just talking about the national team. You do what the national team does best. You just figured out a way to get out of the knockout round. Tell us a little bit about your overall experience so far before we get into some match results, two in particular that I like to talk about.
Yeah, I think, nervousness is something that I'm not super used to. I don't actually compete in many things in my life. So it's
ice
like
in the veins.
So it's like I really was nervous that first game against the Bobcats, and then that victory gave me some confidence. And I probably wasn't as on my game in game 2, which we'll talk about, but I think I'm taking the right approach, John, and I'm learning every game. The third game was definitely, I will say, a throwaway. The second game was stolen from me, so I'm not feeling too bad about my showing, and I think I've got a chance to make some noise in these knockouts.
So let's talk about that stolen game. First one I want to talk about, the loss to American Outlaws. It was it was your first loss out of the 3 games. Things started out really well, and for you, I thought, and then they quickly just fell apart in the dying minutes. You had that penalty kick was saved, and you ended up getting the L on the ensuing counterattack. Walk us through that one.
Yeah, I think much like the first game, I gave up the early goal. I was able to claw my way back, and we were really well matched, I would say.
Yeah, I would say so.
Despite many, many mistakes that I was making in the passing game, I think I was just trying to do the same thing over and over again. I was not being flexible with my game plan, which is a teachable moment. So I would have definitely changed that. But yeah, dude, I think it's super fishy. I maybe lingered a little too long on where I was going to shoot, and we do know that the stream was open. So who knows what that meant, but obviously the dagger was not just not getting the win, but then that draw turning into a loss on that, literally the final button hit of the game. Like, unbelievable how I got beat on that long cross, and the header went right in. Like,
well, what they say,
that's just bad luck.
You know what they say? They say, don't put yourself in that position. Do the job beforehand.
That's true.
So the second one I want to talk about was the loss to, and I say loss in parentheses, to Delaware Rising, and you played as Minnesota United. There are a few things in this one. First off, the historic match, saying that you and your opponent decided to play as MLS teams. And in fact, it aligned perfect that you were both able to play with teams from your home states. Yeah. So you went with Minnesota United, he went to Columbus Crew. And I thought it was kind of cool when you think about it. But most importantly, you were already through to the knockout regardless. So that's the other storyline there. Like, that's why you guys chose to do that. And I mentioned on the broadcast, I felt like it was like a training match at a slower speed that kind of helps sharpen your tools. Was that the case? What did you learn from this one?
Yeah, I think, again, thinking of it as being an adult about it and thinking of it as a teachable moment, I can definitely pick out like 2 or 3 things that at a slower speed I was still able to accomplish, despite the poor quality of the Minnesota United team within FIFA. Tactically, I got a couple things going for me there, but yeah, not a great team, not an on meta team, we'll call it. So really difficult to make any noise when you've got Hunu up top, and your fastest player is probably
carrying a piano.
Yeah, exactly. Not great, about half as fast as the fastest player of like Liverpool or PSG. So It was fun. It was nice. It was a nice little fun thing to do to take that round a little less seriously. But I was worried. I think I realized that maybe after the fact, by making that decision, I shot myself in the foot because I would have given myself a lower seed with that loss. But in the end, it doesn't matter, John, because next up is a rematch. A rematch is on the horizon. I have drawn Delaware Rising again for the first round of the knockouts. Not sure when that's going to take place. I'm supposed to get that notification any day now. And the winner of that game is going to get another shot at American Outlaws, who have a first round bye. So basically a rematch of our entire group. And waiting for us on the other side of the bracket is Valora FC, who just dominated their group and I'm assuming is going to dominate their side of the bracket too. So we'll see how it goes. I think I can come back strong and beat Delaware. And I've learned a lot against American Outlaws. I think I have what it takes to beat him too. So we'll see how it goes.
It's funny you mentioned another UPSL North Conference member in Vlora, because I was going to say that the knockout stages are very reminiscent of the knockout stages that we had to go through for with MC2 last year in the UPSL, where it's like, hey, you had a winner, and then now you have to play again in a tournament that's against the same people in order to go on to the next thing. So very, very UPSL. So anyways, head on over to our social channels. We'll blast out that information. We'll get a good party going to watch Nate take on Delaware Rising of Delaware, Ohio. We found out, not the Delaware that you were thinking of.
Yes,
so up next, Nate, is the member meeting. It's that time of year again, friends, where the chairman himself, Dan Hudeman, puts that old English degree to work, and he breaks open the club's books. And if you haven't had a chance to read the annual report, you can head on over to the Protagonist and check it out. It's, as usual, it's a fantastic read. Dan does a really good job of keeping you engaged while showing you a balance sheet, which is probably very hard to do. But on the heels of this report comes the annual member meeting. I know it was actually scheduled to come out before that, but typically we have done this cadence of having the books opened publicly, and then we get together as a full murder. You know, all the members are invited, members of the staff, the players. You know, we're all going to be there, and it truly is the full murder getting together, and we roll up our sleeves, put 2021 to bed, and we get planning on what we're going to tackle for 2022. You've been to all of these, right? Maybe an outlier where you missed one. I'm pretty sure the only people who listen to this show are members, but there are some out there that are not. What's your thoughts on the member meeting, and why do you feel it's a big benefit to have that?
I think the face-to-face time with the coaches, with the front office is really important. It's nice to be able to, I think we'll talk about it in a little bit, but like it really does show talk about the other side of the coin in a little bit, I should say, but it does show the culture of Minneapolis City is very open. And when you're at these meetings, like Dan is super jovial, Pribble, MVB, everyone's up there just joking around, and very, you know, it is very serious business at times running a soccer team and dealing with, you know, P&L sheets and things like that. But I think, you know, everyone's got just the best attitude possible, and everyone is just really excited and grateful that the team is where it is now. And I think that creates a really great atmosphere for members to be able to share in that. And then the open forum, I mean, you and I sometimes look at each other and like roll our eyes like, dude, what is this question about? But for the most part, like, members have really good questions about the future of the team, and I think it gives the front office a great opportunity to get their finger on the pulse of what the fans are thinking.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's some of the questions, like you said, are a little off the wall, but that's the point, right? Like, if you watch these, like, you know, the Sunderland Till I Die and all these like behind the scenes shows of large clubs that have mostly been built on the backs of local supporters that like live and die the club, and like you support that club because your dad and your grandfather and your, you know, like generational supporters. That's what we hope to build as generational supporters. We don't know how long this dream we're having is going to last, but those interactions with their fans are very much like, you're a fucking wanker, like, buy players, like
the Sunderland ownership meetings are really contentious.
Yeah, it's like how are these dudes going to get out of this room alive, but it's important to have those platforms so people hear these things, and good, bad, or otherwise, you need to hear that stuff. And I think that it's a really good opportunity that we afford the people that pay their hard-earned money for the tickets and the merchandise that we put out there, and then come support the players that are all local. It's you turn a blind eye to the random question. You're like, what the hell are they asking? I don't even know how to unpack this. But they're not all like that. Like I said, there's really good opportunities for us to learn some stuff. Really good questions come at us, and we've course corrected the club in many directions since we've started, based off of what some of those conversations at the membership meeting were. So it's a really good thing. So if you're a member, head on down to Udapills Brewing Company on the 10th of this month, February 10th.
Yeah, next Thursday.
Information will be on all channels. If you're not a member, then you got some time. Go buy a membership. Head on over to FBLSCitySC.com. Get a membership and be part of the conversation.
For real. Well, up next, John, is a topic that's been on my mind for a long time. And with 1 month to go already, it's February, 1 month to go until the MLS is back again. I have to talk about it with you and with the people. It's been bouncing around in my head for a while, and I've wanted to do a show on it since before Christmas. Because like one night in November, I think after the playoff loss, I'm scrolling through Twitter, not in a great mood about United's loss. And I saw a tweet from a guy I know, a Wonderwall member, and an established local soccer supporter that I know. And really, he's an all-around likable person. So it struck me. And the tweet said, God, United is just full of assholes. So many unlikable players / an unlikable coach. And it struck me in its simplicity, John. It's like that, the ability of that tweet to really get right to how I had been feeling about the team for a good part of the fall, maybe back to that summer. All of a sudden, I realized that like everything I had seen up until that point as a season ticket holder, by the way, from MLS day one, the Snopener, everything that includes, the initial failures of the club, passing on can't miss local talent in the drafts, like jettisoning fan favorite players, an inability to keep talent, losses to teams when they're down to 10 men, the Frankopane thing, like this club. And the taste in my mouth is really awful. And I have never been less excited for a season to begin than I am this year. So I want to start our discussion, John, with something that someone told me once, and that was, you can be dumb or you can be mean, but you can't be dumb and mean. And unfortunately, from the beginning, United seems to have accepted that challenge. So let's talk about the early days and how the team was set up and what that kind of where those two aspects reared their ugly heads.
Well, I think for me, and this is where I try to mind my P's and Q's for the rest of the day here. For me, the main thing was the promises. Like, we're doing this. We're all in. We're gonna build. We're getting a franchise, and then we're gonna build this awesome stadium, and it's gonna be like all roses. And just yes, some of those things did happen. I thought the team that overachieved 2 years ago was a good team. Like that it went down to a bad coaching decision that saw this team not get a chance at winning a title, and that sucks. But I thought that team and the way they were playing, it was working. So yes, that promise was there at that one point. Yes, I've made the joke that they're in the 6th year of a 3-year plan, but that's actually a true statement. Like every year, it's like Now that we're gonna do it again. This is our year, and we're only 2-3 players away, and then you don't.
We got the formula this time.
We don't find out who that 2 and 3 players are until a week after the season starts. And then now I'm looking at just Twitter on my other screen here, and the club tweets out, "Trialist, our main man Trialist buries one at the death to give us a 5-4 lead." Like, what is that? Like, this man has a name.
Our main man Trialist? Are they talking about Emmanuel Iwe, the NPSL's own?
They might be, but like, come on, like that communication doesn't need to happen. Like, you don't have to like make it a joke that it's a trialist. Like, trials in those types of environments are extremely stressful for a player, especially if you're a young player or if you're an established veteran. It doesn't matter. Like, you're trying to fight for a job. It's like going to a job interview at General Mills and then finding out that General Mills tweeted like, candidate
1 had a great day, but
yeah, exactly. And you're like,
we'll see how it goes tomorrow.
Am I candidate 1? Like, is this a good thing? So I think like the promises, the missteps there, the communication that's come out, like fan-facing communication, I think has had its major missteps in like the tone. It comes from like a joking connotation, but sometimes it's not funny. And, you know, you can say what you want to say about how our club presents itself online, and we don't always say the best things, and we don't always, you know, make the, you know, hit on all the jokes, but we're unapologetic about who we are, and that's who we are. We don't try to say we're one thing and then we're another thing. And that's what I think has been the major setback of this club is in Minnesota United is it's like we're this, but no, we're actually that. But we're not going to talk about what we are. We're going to talk about what we should be. And then there's just like who's and then the last thing, who's really driving the ship, right? Like, you have an owner who's not a soccer person, whether you believe how he got into the game or not, or if he even knows anything about soccer. I mean, my old adage is, you think you know a lot about soccer, hit me a long ball with your left foot, and then I'll listen to you. But that's not the case here when it comes to like corporate ownership, right? Like, you can't ask you know, Robert Kraft to juggle 10 times. It's never going to happen. You're gonna be there for a while. So like, is the leadership the one that's like putting forth this, like, it's okay to talk like this, to be this, or is it the people who are working for the leadership? Like, we really don't know who's driving, and I think you can see that who's driving moniker in the personnel decisions that are made, and we're going to talk about that here in a second.
Yeah, I mean, you know, from the beginning, when you talk about the early days, this, like you said, we don't know who's driving the ship, and that was evident right away. Like, we're watching Atlanta build their roster with some surgical moves,
and you know,
really great.
And you knew who was driving that ship. It was Carlos Bocanegra.
Yep, and then and meanwhile, like, United is taking flyers on players from the second division in Sweden or some shit, and like, who, you know, they're scouting people, bringing people over from Finland, and it's like, because why? They have national team experience, and the whole time it's just like, you look at one and you look at the other and you go, oh man, I hope this works. And then they go ahead and they pass on what amounts to, you know, a local soccer star. When you think about Jackson Ewell and how he's developed it at San Jose, they went with, rather than guaranteed ticket sales, when they draft by drafting a Bloomington kid first round, you're going to have all the fans all in on this kid's success. You go with Dunlawdy, who doesn't really play that much the first year, if I remember right. And it's just like, he's only the first of many failed strikers. So I think for me, the first clue,
he's back.
He's back. And I think for me, the first clue, John, that I was cheering for a mean, dumb team was that famous game in that first season, I think, where Heath's kid got a red card from the bench. Like, dude plays negligible minutes all season and still somehow feels empowered to run his mouth and get in a fight from the sidelines. Like, that is a sign of the culture of the team, John, where the coach's kid feels like he can do whatever the hell he wants over there. You know, damn the outcome of the game just because someone said some shit to him.
I'm not going to pretend that nepotism isn't a thing, right? Like, it is a thing. And I'm not going to pretend that I haven't been afforded opportunities, specifically when I was younger, because my family was ingrained in a soccer environment in Ohio where I grew up. And then when I moved to Wisconsin, like I'm not going to pretend, but I took those opportunities and I showcased what I can do as a player and a person. So the nepotism of like bringing in your kid who clearly doesn't have, like, Harrison Heath isn't a bad soccer player, but he's not an MLS caliber player. I've seen him play firsthand, like, and to bring your kid in, is that, I don't know, like, it's another, like, who is making these decisions? Like, what person sat around the room was like, you know what we need to do? We're going to sign your kid. And he batted around in the lower leagues in England as a youth, and he's been in the second and third division in the United States, and he hasn't really shined or anything like that. We're gonna take that guy instead of a can't miss local product who will sell tickets, who was promoted to the national team, like is a focal point for a conference rival now. That doesn't make sense to me, and I don't know. Again, I don't know who signed off on that.
Yeah, John, I think a lot of what made that first season exciting for people, though, was this opportunity to see players that we had gotten to know and love at the lower level finally make it to the big stage. When you think about guys like Justin Davis or Ibson or Ibarra or Ramirez, like, how exciting that these guys, they're MLS players now, and we've been here the whole time with them. But unfortunately, like, all those guys have ended up being given their marching orders, and it's hard to say in most cases that it's because of an inability to play at this level. Like, again, is the front office, is the club that tone deaf? Like, what did the front office see or not see that had them make some of these moves? Like, I get that maybe you keep a guy like Davis around because you just can't fill the roster in year one. You need the body. Can't fill the roster in year one. I get it. Ibson, wild on the field, doing some crazy stuff, make some crazy calls. I get it. Probably you think you can get a better defensive midfielder in. I can't remember who his initial replacement was, so it's hard to argue that you could have. Maybe Grey Goose, I guess. But with these,
I think it was Schuler. I think Schuler was supposed to be.
Schuler was always with us, and he was always garbage. It would be one thing if we made these moves, John, like as a way of building up, is what I'm saying. Like, sorry, Christian, you got to go. We've got someone that is a sure thing coming in. Oh, by the way, his name is Angelo Rodriguez or whatever that guy. It was garbage. But because it feels like every time we find a star, that star will inevitably is going to either fade out or the team just makes constant hapless personnel decisions, or something goes on behind the scenes and it stifles these players. Stifles players like Toy, like Dunlady, like Darwin. The list goes on when you think about all these people that fans get excited about and that really showed promise and flash on the field and then just stopped playing for the coach or stopped playing for the team. And I've heard that when it can't be, if maybe you can put it on the personnel decisions. I don't know. I've heard it's probably at least one of these issues, personnel decisions or bad culture. Could be both. I've heard when Minnesota United scouts, they've been overheard like scoffing at consensus best on the field players at, college championship games because they call those players tryhards and United only prefers thinkers. And that sounds like a really bad way to make personnel decisions, John, because tryhards don't lose a game when they're up a man. Like, I'll tell you what, tryhards wouldn't let themselves lose a game when the other team's down to 10 men. So when the revolving door of talent doesn't seem to stop spinning, it really feels like there's a toxic combination of locker room issues and potential like ineptitude at the personnel level.
So I think there's a couple trains of thought here. I think number one, looking back, if you could do it all over again, looking back on season one, would it have been a better decision to just sign your designated players, like truly sign quality designated players? Obviously, you rethink your draft pick, But go into that season with not bringing in Adrian Heath, letting Carl, who was also a local favorite, maybe not ready to be an MLS coach. Who knew if he was or not?
What does that even mean?
Right, exactly. Like maybe go with what you had there and say it like it is. We're going to go into this as a true expansion team. We're the first year we're going to feel things out. We're going to go in with the guys we got. We're going to bring in some pieces that we know we need at the MLS level, and we're going to try to make this work. And then we're going to we're going to look at it, and then maybe we're successful enough where we just can figure out the pieces to plug in, and maybe that's a new coach.
You're going to have fun. You fans are going to have a great time.
Exactly. They're going to come. They're not going to just come because it's a new thing. They're going to come because it's still somewhat similar to what it used to be. Yep. And so that's one train of thought for me. The second is around just the building of the roster. It's like to me it's been, we have what we know we have, and we feel like we can just bring in better. And we're going to talk publicly about needing to bring in better when these guys that we have are the ones that we're trying to also motivate to perform so that we do well while we're trying to find that other guy to replace them. And then that guy comes in and you realize that he's total shit, or he's good, but where he's being misused by maybe the technical staff in a role. And you're like, how do we unlock this guy? He's very good. Or and meanwhile, you have these guys who are like, I was here from the fucking beginning, and I perform, and why am I being overlooked? Yeah. It's got to be hard from a locker room perspective, like you mentioned, to go through that. There doesn't seem to be a transparency there, and obviously all the things we're saying right now and we've said tonight are all hearsay because we don't know what goes on. But you have to wonder, like, is all the downfall a single set of a few people that have been with the club since the beginning? And you look at who's been at the club since the beginning, and maybe it is time for a change. But I look at it as the script for how to be a good MLS team has been out there. It's like what Dan just wrote in the end of the year review of last year. The script's there for lower league soccer, and we just we had to find it at first. We had to massage it, and then now we know what we are, and we move forward, and we're transparent about that. The script for how to be good in the MLS has been there since the beginning, because it's a franchise model, and everyone starts off the same way. It's like you can have X number of players already on your roster that you're signed for the first 3, I think it's 2 or 3 years, where they don't, like, some of them don't count against the salary cap, because they want to get like good players in so that the teams aren't shit every year. We're giving you an expansion draft where you can take players that are unprotected from other teams. So do your scouting on those. Don't take like Colin Warner from Houston. Take someone who actually can play. And then you go through the college draft. So you know where you can focus your attention. I think the attention was focused on disjointed areas of how to build that roster by multiple different people with competing ideas probably. And then it was like, now what do we do? Like, we don't even have a team that we can put out on the field. And like I read with that Trialist tweet that was put out, in the first year, they didn't have 15 players going into the preseason.
No. And you know what, John? Hard pressed for them to, that's just like how they've been operating. I mean, I can't remember how many years we've been doing this podcast, and we kind of do the ML. We kind of always do the United preseason show where we're like, "Oh, it's a time to panic," because there have been 11 players going into the preseason. There have been 11 players going into like the last 2 weeks before the whistle blows. So it's been pretty scary sometimes the way this has been operated. And I've already said some of these names, but let me get a list going here and help me out if I'm missing any. But fan favorites here and gone: Davis, Ibsen, Ibarra, Ramirez, Darwin, good old Jerry, Abu Dunlandi, Mason Toy, Iko Para, Grey Goose, Ozzy now, Finley. Who else? Like, that revolving door wouldn't be that bad to me. Molino. Oh my God, I forgot Molino.
Yeah.
And that revolving door really wouldn't be that bad, right? If it wasn't full of players that fans actually loved. Like all those guys, people were geeked about. And Ike Opara still one of the like legit nicest guys to have played in the MLS. Same with Ozzy, right? Ethan Finley, exciting, like a local guy coming back and doing really well on our stage. Mason Toy, how exciting to see this kid develop and start scoring goals until all of a sudden he must have gotten in a fight with Darwin or something, and then he stopped getting the ball passed to him.
Speaking of Mason Toy and a 6 year for 3 year plan.
Yeah, right?
Finally putting it together, but you draft him as a freshman out of college. What do you expect?
Right. So year after year, John, we just talked about it. This team rebuilds its roster. And it really feels in like it's about now. Every year, it's about now that the team turns on the PR machine and they ask the fans with a straight face to fall in love with someone like fucking Ja'Cory Hayes.
So,
like,
question:
it's exhausting, man. Like they're only a fan-focused organization in their marketing materials. Like as fans, we're just props to them.
So, let me ask you a question. Name a player or multiple players, and I do follow the club, so I know some about it. I'm not a diehard, but I do follow the club for obvious reasons, local. Name a player or a group of players that's been here for more than 3 years.
Brent Coleman.
Brent Coleman. Okay. Anyone else?
Potentially Mettenair.
Mettenair is probably going on his third season.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to get at here is that you've named one guy who's been there since the beginning in Brent Coleman, but even just look at him and how they've jerked him around. Like, so if you take it down and to parallel it to what we do at Minneapolis City, which I believe this actually does have an apples to apples comparison. We had players that came with us in the beginning and performed and showed that they could be at our level, and they hung around until they either left on their own, which I know is different, but they left on their own, retired, whatever, step aside. There's very few players that we've had here that we've had to like say, maybe it's time for you to go because the ship has sailed. But what I'm trying to get at here is that you have to build the core, and the core has to be with you for longer than 3 years to make this shit work in soccer. Like
it's like a classic story, John, of any locker room ever, that like you got to have your veterans. You got to have the guys that have been around the locker room, that have been around the town,
the city. Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying? And we just don't have that. And what kills me, like I'm saying, is that they hit reset every year. And then it's like, here are the guys to get excited about this year. And it's like, what did Ja'Cory Hayes do for me last year? Like, I'm like, great. Nico Hansen, excited for the guy. I'm literally not going to be all in on Nico Hansen this year. I'm really sorry. There's this collective voice that they use to market to us. Like, we're with you. We're all Loonesta. But like as a season ticket holder, I don't really feel like anyone is listening to us. When you think about after how the front office bungled their attempt to silence the Wonderwall's anti-racist protests back in 2019, and then how like Wonderwall spent most of last summer getting steamrolled on COVID policy and then ended up getting stabbed in the back by like the left side of their supporters section. Like that message is clear. Like the club just is saying, can't you just shut up and cheer? Like that's really shitty, John. That's not how. There's like really taking the fans for granted there.
Yeah. I mean, there's not really much more to add to what you said. But it to me, it all goes back to who are we and what are we trying to do?
Yeah.
And I'm a Green Bay Packer fan, and everyone always talks about like, it must be real tough to be a Packer fan when you've had like 30 years of Hall of Fame caliber quarterbacking. Yeah, that's a luxury. It doesn't happen to everybody. But what the Packers did in the late 80s, early 90s was they identified that they sucked, and they were like, you know what, we are bad, and we are historical winners, and we're gonna do what we need to do to really put this under a microscope and look at all of our missteps, be transparent about how we didn't make the right calls, like drafting a known steroid user instead of Barry Sanders. That was a real good pick. And that guy flames out of the league and ultimately passes away because of drug use. We know we made the missteps, but we're going to, from this day forward, we are going to rebuild and learn from those mistakes, and we're going to re-identify ourselves as winners again, and that's what we're going to do. And they did that, and like, yes, it's only been 2 Super Bowl championships. In my opinion, should have been a couple more. But the parallel to this is that, like, that's really what United needs, man. It needs a reset. It needs, even if it keeps some of the personnel behind the scenes and not maybe the coach, but I think the coach has to go in order for there to be a true reset. But maybe that's what's needed. Like, hey, guys, like, what are we doing here? Like, and I feel it's going to come after this year. Like, if this year doesn't work, like, how do people keep their jobs? If that's the case, then it's like there's no hope. Because if you look at the parity in the MLS, has there been a team? I mean, I don't know how long you followed the MLS, but I've been following it since its inception. Has there been a team that's been this, I don't really want to call it bad, but like this unsuccessful for a long period of time? Like, even like, every year it seems like another team kind of pops up. Look at New England.
Yeah.
Like, New England.
I was going to say, if you asked me that question this time last year, I would have said, Real Salt Lake. Oh, there they go.
Yep, exactly. Because you know what they did? They hit reset. They figured out, they looked at what Dallas was doing. They're like, you know what? Like, we actually have the makings of a really good academy system here, and we can build. We've already seen it work with a few players. Maybe let's reinvest a little bit of the extra scratch into that instead of some stupid fucking marketing campaign, and let's, like, build some players up, and then we can sell them, and then we can get more players, and we can do more great things, and maybe we'll start competing for a title again, or for the first time. I truly believe that that's what's needed, because not everyone can start out like Atlanta, I mean, even look at San Jose when they won the MLS their first year. Like, look at Seattle, look at Portland. Those teams came in with an identity, and they built off of what they, like, the teams that got promoted, like Minnesota United did. Like, Atlanta was a new team, I get that, but like the Portlands, the Portlands, the Sounders, those were lower level teams that were like, this is what works for us and our fan base. This is who we are. Let's just put a little bit of MLS on this. Let's, like, have to go through the weird, funny money that is acquiring players, but let's just do it the right way. And then let's see if it works like it used to. And it did. Like, those teams are perennially good because they have an identity. They stick to it. They're unapologetic about who they are from a fan supporter perspective. And they just go in and they do their shit. But the other teams, like San Jose, started out as a winner, ended up having to go through some weirdness there, and they were the doormats for a while. Then they came back, and now they're not so great again, but they're coming back again with the acquisition of players like Jackson Ewell and a progressive thinking coach that sometimes it works, sometimes it fails. But Bielsa seems to have done a really great job of being that type of manager throughout his career. So like, this shit kind of works if you just you truly go down to the studs and you figure out what you got, and then you're transparent about it. Your fan base is going to actually probably get more behind you than they already are. If you're respect Yeah. And not just say that there's a 3-year plan. And then in year 3, be like, we're going to need another 3.
Or like, be like, you know what? Here's why you haven't seen your favorite midfielder for the entire season.
Right.
Even though he's healthy. Here's why he's been a healthy scratch, despite playing for his national team in the Euros.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, like, you bring up a really good point. I mean, look at the Ike situation. Like, we may never find out what happened there. And that's his personal thing, right? Like, it's, could it be a personal issue? Is it a medical thing?
Could be a family issue. Could be medical after his concussion. Who knows?
It could be whatever it is. And, I'm sure the fans really want to know. I really want to know, just because I'm just curious. But I also respect the fact that it's probably something that the masses shouldn't nor need to find out about. However, look about it from an employee perspective. Like, all these players are employees of a corporation, in an organization. That situation, to me, is a real black eye, because of the fact that it, 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 they didn't protect their employee.
Mhm.
They just swept it under the rug, hoping no one would talk about it. And that's one way to do it in certain circumstances. Is like, let's just not talk about this because it's serious, but not serious enough where we'll just let it kind of go by, and then it'll be over one day, and then maybe we'll have to answer a few questions, but then we're not in the shit in the now because we're addressing it. What they didn't do was protect him. They didn't say like he is going through an issue that is a personal matter and he will not be on the field with us. Instead, it was like Ike Watch 2020. Like, what's happening with Ike now? You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
you go.
No, I hear you, man.
You don't just sweep under the rug the best defender in the league and just be like, no one's gonna find out. No one's gonna figure this out. Shh, be quiet.
He was never here.
Exactly. And that goes back again to the identity transparency thing for me. It's like, protect your employees. And it goes back to the roster thing too. Like, I don't feel like a lot of those former fan favorites, quality players were probably felt protected by the organization or like loved by the organization. Like maybe they did, I don't know. But like
you said, if you're bringing in alternatives throughout the course of the season, like why would me as someone like Darwin or Ramirez, like why would I try that hard if I'm seeing that my employer is trying really hard to replace me?
Yeah, the big one for me, I know we already kind of talked about this part, but the big one for me was the Ibarra stuff. Like that just did not go down great. I mean, Ramirez, I know there was some issues that he was having and the organization was having with him, and
he was valuable. He was a valuable transfer out, so I get you got some money for him.
Exactly, and I don't believe that he was a saint in all this either. To be honest, I think it was coming up from both sides. But you look at like, then he leaves and he goes to another MLS team and he's successful. He goes over to Europe, which would have been a better transfer for United if they would have kept with him for a little bit longer. They would have been able to get that European transfer money, and he's loved over there. Like literally, like
they love him in Scotland.
They love him. Like people are naming their kids and shit after him. Like,
You're kidding.
No, I'm dead serious. So it's the same thing. It's like, regardless of what happens back of the house, we'll never find that out. We can speculate. We can make wild assumptions that may be correct or incorrect. It truly goes down to me with, like I've said it before, the transparency and the self-realization of what your identity is, who you are, and how you're going to move forward. And you don't have to tell everyone all your plans, but you have to at least give the people something so that they have a reason to continue to be a supporter of your organization. And it could be a brand that sells something, or it could be a sports team. Like look how many people in Jacksonville still go to the Jaguars games, even though they're just a stain of an organization. They want to go because they want to see live sports, and it's the biggest football draw in that area. You know what I mean? Like the MLS in the United States, it's the biggest draw for soccer in these markets, and people are going to come no matter what. But if you want to keep making that money, which the franchise model is pretty clear that you need to, in order to be successful, like just give the fans a little bit more than like the marketing materials and things that make them feel like they're part of it, like.
And that's kind of what I'm saying, John. Like here, the thing is you can, I'm sure there are people who are listening who are like, we'll just stop going to the game, stop spending money. But it's like, here's the thing, like a game at Allianz Field is just fun to go to. Like it's a great environment. It's a nice facility. I love taking my daughter. It's fun to cheer and yell at players and listen to a 2-year-old scream goal.
I'll say this, I've never had a bad experience in like I don't go to a lot of games because the summers are busy for me with what we do here. But like I've never had a bad time going to a Minnesota United game.
No,
but even back when they played at the bank and it sucked, I never had a bad time.
But man, if this year is a continuation of last year, though, like if like player turnover makes it hard to feel like you're connected to anyone on the field, if culture becomes more and more this like culture that has been seeping up from the sewers becomes more and more prevalent, like I'm sure I'm not the only person who's going to reevaluate where their money goes. And if you're wondering where else, if you're like me and you're wondering where else to spend your time watching soccer, I mean, like you said, most people listening to this podcast are probably members, but if you're not, I know a team that has a strict like no assholes policy where the culture's pretty great.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I know exactly who you're talking about. You know, I definitely want to say this before we pack up the show here for tonight. We don't know what happens over at Minnesota United, and this is all our opinion and things that we've uncovered. But you know, like you said, if you want to be part of something, you want to feel included. And if I was a United supporter, I wouldn't really feel like I was included in things. And I get it because it's professional sports, but you know, you can't win them all, Nate. But these are our facts and opinions that we and we hold no one else responsible but ourselves for saying them. There's our disclaimer at the end of the show, Nate.
Word.
Well, thanks for listening, folks, to this week's show, and thank you to our wonderful sponsor, footballstadiumprints.com. If you're in the market for supremely curated soccer-focused graphic design on anything from mugs to t-shirts, head on over to footballstadiumprints.com and fill up your cart. You can even get in on their NFT game, Nate. Are you a big NFT guy?
What? No.
If you follow them on Twitter, there's some really cool shit out there that Steve's doing with NFTs and some of his original artwork.
That's
recommend
awesome.
Checking it out. Don't forget to use the code CROWS10. That's CROWS10 for 10% off of everything you purchase outside of those non-fungible tokens that I just mentioned. You can't get discounts on those. And remember, all orders ship right from the States, so there are no pesky international shipping charges. If we've said it once, we've said it 199 times exactly, Nate. Minneapolis City is a 501c3, so consider getting that tax-deductible donation through a charitable gift to the club to keep the wonderful ship we've created afloat. If you're interested in getting a hold of us, we made it pretty simple. You can complain to the club. I'm sure after people listening to this one, there's going to be a lot of complaints. But anyways, you can complain to the club at NPLS City SC on Twitter or through the show. Please complain to the show, actually. Like, if you have a problem with what we said,
Complain to us.
Complain to us.
Tell
I'd
me.
love to hear it. We can have a healthy dialogue, a respectfully healthy, transparent dialogue.
We appreciate your Discord.
Discord. So you can get a hold of us, complain to us through the show at the People's Pitch or via email at mcsepodcast@gmail.com. And I'm now reminded that Bren, if you are listening, we do have your question that came through. I totally forgot to add it into this week, so we will get it in potentially for our next big thing we're going to talk about, Nate. Because that's all for this week. I am Nate. I'm John. That is Nate. Friends, this is our 199th episode, which means we got something
200 coming up
our sleeve for the big 200. So maybe the whole thing's gonna be centered around Brent's question. I don't know, but maybe. So stay tuned for info on what we have up our sleeves for our 200th episode. And we got hooked.